Hey there, MiniWarGamers. This is Owen again with another Dark Elf Tactica video. This one we're going to go over some of Dark Elf's special choices, the Cold One Riders or Cold One Knights. They have their goods and bads. I'll get into it and I'll show you what I think of that.
MiniWar's here to play.
Cold One Knights, one of the special choices in your Dark Elf Codex and your Dark Elf lists. They stand as probably my favorite cavalry unit I've seen so far, other than the Monstrous Cavalry, of course, which is awesome in its own right. Cold One Knights, they hit really hard. They're rather tough with a nice 2-up armor save base, and they've got higher strength, higher initiative, higher weapon skill than your standard Dark Elf. That being said, they are very expensive. Bringing any more than 5 really starts to become almost a burden on your army, because anything that gets around armor or the lore of metal entirely will badly devastate these guys. Also, they do suffer from stupidity, which they have a high leadership, so it's not something that you have to particularly worry about, but that 1 in 10 chance or whatever it's going to be that they actually do fail their roll and they just stumble around the board, really disappointing. The way I roll, it happens more often than it should. Other than that, they do have some pretty good upgrades here. The Dread Knight, the upgraded lord for Cold One Riders, they even have the option to carry magic weapons themselves, up to 25 points worth, so you can give them a few little interesting tokens to really mess up someone's day or to give them some defense against ethereal creatures out there. They can also carry a magic standard, which there's always lots of magic standards out there that you might want. My favorite is the one that gives them the increased movement speed, because Cold One Riders, not as fast as a regular horse and a lot slower than the Elven horses. So they tend to take forever to get across the board, but that 1 inch extra movement really gets them going. Of course, there's all kinds of standards out there that you could bring, but this is my preference. Mainly, you're going to use the Cold One Riders on the flanks. You're either going to try and hit main units in the sides or rear, supporting your blocks of spearmen or blocks of whatever it is that you happen to bring in your army. Probably spearmen, cheap, effective. I went over that previously. But yeah, that's what they'll be doing. Other than that, it's going to be a lot of defeating their flanking units, because you are tougher, stronger, and faster, or maybe not faster, but you're definitely tougher and stronger than a lot of things you're going to run into on the flanks, and either rushing for their war machines or just beating up things on the flank. When charging with the Cauldron of Blood backing them up, they become a really devastating unit. With the extra attack or the ward save, which of course, ward saves, there's never a bad time for that either. They can't parry, being cavalry, but not as big a deal when you're charging and running down your enemies. All in all, they do have a lot of different options, lots of versatility minus the stupidity. Other than that, of course, eternal hatred that all Dark Elves get. And they cause fear, which honestly, you rarely see it now in the the new edition. It can help. I mean, if they go down to weapon skill 1, you're of course going to smash them even harder than you are now. Usually the tactic that I have is I give their Dread Lord the Ring of Darkness, or the Dread Knight, my mistake, that's what he's called. Half weapon skill and half ballistic skill against him, and ballistic skills against the entire unit. So it becomes a lot tougher against enemy shooting, which usually is the thing that eats these guys up, because once they're in combat, they're usually okay, but on the way in, it really gets them with a lot of the firing. Other than that, there's not a lot else with them, so the big things, they're very strong, they hit really hard, they've got an awesome armor save, they can re-roll the hit because they have the hatred of all the other ones. Major downsides though, they are very expensive and they're rather slow and subject to stupidity. So, good and bad, but I really like them, they look really cool, and they're fun to play with. So, expect to see them even though they're not the most competitive thing out there. Happy wargaming.